I still remember the exact second the world cracked open and swallowed every promise we ever made. It was a Thursday night, the kind where the house feels too quiet and the refrigerator hums like it's mocking you. I'd come home early from the office, carrying a bouquet of those ridiculous orange lilies Sarah always pretended to hate but secretly kept in water for weeks. I was halfway up the stairs when I heard her voice, low and conspiratorial, drifting from the cracked door of the guest room. "Mom, relax. He'll never figure it out. He trusts me the way he trusts gravity." My foot froze on the step. The lilies trembled in my fist, petals brushing my knuckles like tiny accusations. I should have turned around, should have pretended I heard nothing, but the word trusts lodged in my throat like a fishbone. I pressed my ear to the wood and listened to my marriage die in real time. Sarah's laugh came next, the one that used to make me feel like the luckiest man alive, now sharp enough to cut glass. I know, it's awful," she said, but there was no remorse in it, only the giddy relief of someone who just unhooked a bra after a long day. "It started as comfort, okay? David was grieving his dad, I was lonely, Mark was always at the office. One glass of wine turned into 3, and suddenly I'm in the passenger seat of David's truck with my skirt around my thighs and his mouth on my neck." My stomach lurched. David, my college roommate, the best man at our wedding who'd toasted to a love that outlasts us all. I pictured his smug grin, the way he clapped me on the back and said, "You hit the jackpot, buddy." The lilies slipped from my fingers and scattered across the carpet like crime scene evidence. I didn't burst in. I'm not that guy. Instead, I stood there paralyzed, cataloging every memory for signs I'd missed. The late-night book club meetings that left her smelling like cedar and someone else's cologne. The way she'd started locking her phone even when she went to the bathroom. The sudden interest in yoga pants that hugged her ass like a second skin. Each recollection was a fresh stab. But the worst part was how ordinary it all felt. Sarah wasn't a villain twirling a mustache. She was the woman who still made my coffee exactly 2 sugars and a splash of oat milk, who cried at SVA commercials, who once drove 3 hours to hold my hand when my own father died. How do you square that with the voice on the other side of the door saying, "I love Mark, I do, but David makes me feel like I'm 25 again"? I backed down the stairs, retrieved the lilies, and shoved them into the trash compactor like I could pulverize the truth along with the stems. Then I sat on the kitchen island and waited, palms sweating, heart ricocheting against my ribs. When Sarah finally emerged, hair twisted into a messy bun, wearing my old Columbia sweatshirt like a trophy, she smiled the way she had on our honeymoon, wide, unguarded mine. "Hey babe, you're home early." She kissed my cheek, lips soft and tasting faintly of mint gum. I wanted to scream, to grab her shoulders and shake until the lies fell out like loose change, but I just said, "Traffic was light," and watched her pour herself a glass of the Cabernet we'd bought on our Napa trip. The same trip where she'd whispered, "I want to grow old with you and still want to jump your bones." I wondered if David had been in the vineyard that day, lurking behind the tasting room, waiting for his moment. The next weeks were a masterclass in self-torture. I became a detective in my own life, scrolling through her Instagram likes at 2 a.m., noting which photos David commented on with fire emojis. I checked her Apple Watch location history and saw a pin dropped at his apartment building 3 towns over. I even sniffed her scarves like a bloodhound, hunting for traces of his laundry detergent. Every discovery carved another chunk out of me, but I couldn't stop. Love, I learned, is a stubborn bastard. It clings even when the house is burning. I still cooked her favorite lemon ricotta pancakes on Sundays. I still reached for her in bed, then pretended I was just adjusting the blanket when she flinched away. The worst night was when she came home flushed and glowing, claiming spin class, and I found a parking receipt for a hotel garage time-stamped an hour before. I sat on the bathroom floor and cried so hard I threw up, then brushed my teeth twice so she wouldn't smell the bile. I hired a lawyer before I hired a therapist. His name was Richard Park, a wiry Korean guy with a voice like gravel and zero patience for bullshit. I slid the folder across his desk, bank statements showing cash withdrawals I never authorized, screenshots of texts she thought she'd deleted, the hotel receipt with a lipstick smudge the exact shade of her favorite Dior. Richard flipped through it all without blinking. "You want to confront her or you want to win?" he asked. I didn't know anymore. Winning felt like losing either way. But I nodded because surrender wasn't in my vocabulary yet. We set the trap carefully. I kept playing the devoted husband, planning a surprise anniversary trip to the Amalfi Coast, even booked the same villa where we'd conceived our daughter Lily, who was now away at college and blissfully unaware. Sarah's eyes lit up when I showed her the confirmation email, and for one treacherous second I almost believed we could rewind. Then Richard called me into his office for the final piece. "I need you to ask her one question on speakerphone," he said. "Record it. Don't deviate from the script." The question was simple, devastating in its precision. "Sarah, if I told you I transferred $50,000 into an account under your maiden name for Lily's grad school, would you know which bank?" I practiced it in the mirror until my voice stopped shaking. That night, after Lily FaceTimed to show us her new apartment, I waited until Sarah was relaxed on the couch, feet in my lap, wineglass half empty. "Hey," I said, casual as discussing the weather. "Hypothetically, if I moved some money for Lily's future, say 50 grand under your maiden name, you'd know the bank, right?" She froze just for a heartbeat, but it was enough. Her toes curled against my thigh. Probably Chase?" she guessed, eyes flicking to the TV. I hit record on the app Richard installed, thanked her, and went to take a shower so she wouldn't see my face crumble. The next morning, Richard played the clip in court. Sarah sat across the table in a navy blazer, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. Her lawyer, a slick guy named Ethan who probably billed by the smirk, leaned in to whisper something. Then Richard stood, adjusted his tie, and delivered the line that ended us. "Your Honor, the account in question was opened at Wells Fargo 3 days after Mrs. Harlan's first withdrawal. Here's the signature card with her maiden name, and here's the transfer from the joint account Mr. Harlan never authorized." But the clincher? Mrs. Harlan just confirmed on record she believed the fictitious account was at Chase. She couldn't have known the real bank unless she opened it herself. The room went still. Sarah's mouth opened, closed. Her mother sitting behind her. Aged 10 years in a second. Ethan scrambled, but the damage was surgical. The judge's gavel was almost gentle, like putting a dying animal out of its misery. I didn't gloat. I didn't even look at Sarah as the terms were read. Sole custody of the lake house, the 401k split down the middle, her car, my dignity in tatters but intact. Outside the courthouse, the October wind whipped dead leaves around our ankles. She caught my sleeve before I reached the parking lot. "Mark," she said, voice raw. "I never meant. I waited. I owed her that much." Tears tracked mascara down her cheeks. I got scared. Of getting old, of being ordinary. David was a hallucination. You were real, and real started to feel like a cage. I studied her face, the tiny scar above her eyebrow from when we tried to install a ceiling fan drunk on our first anniversary. I wanted to hate her cleanly, but hate is a luxury for people who never shared a mortgage and a miscarriage and a child's first steps. "I hope he makes you feel 25 forever," I said and walked away. The lilies were long compost by then, but I still smell them sometimes, phantom orange and funereal, reminding me that trust is a house of cards and love is the breath that knocks it down. Sarah was wrong about one thing, I figured it out. But the real betrayal wasn't the affair. It was realizing the man she whispered about, the one who'd never suspect, was never me to begin with.